Welcome to Toni Unleashed, the podcast, where I unleash the truth about all things pets. My research and anecdotal evidence, paired with expert interviews, will help your pet thrive. I'm here to answer questions, share insights, and spread awareness about what's really going on in the world of pets. I'm Toni Shalaski with 25 years of experience in the pet space. Welcome to the show. Hey everyone, I am here with David Hartigan from Hemp Heroes and Mush Co.
Yeah.
Hi, David.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on, Toni.
Absolutely. I'm excited to jump into it and talk about your company, since you are founder and CEO of Hemp Heroes and sister company, Mush.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were just talking about it there a minute ago. I actually suffered really bad with dyslexia as a kid. So Hemp Heroes, the heroes is missing the E.
Yes.
So phonetically it's incorrect.
And that's because, and that was the first thing I thought of when I saw your logo. I was like, Why is there no E? So that's why.
Yeah, so phonetically we spelled it purposely wrong for that reason, and it actually just looks nicer. It should technically have like an apostrophe to make it like HER apostrophe S, or sorry, O apostrophe S, or the E. So we dropped it because it actually just looked nicer. And then with Mush Co, we spelled it MUSSH. So there's kind of that extra S in there. So again, it just makes that a little bit more unique.
Okay. Did you trademark either yet, or do you plan
absolutely.
to?
Yeah, they're worldwide trademarked.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So how did everything start?
Yeah. So I suppose I've always been quite entrepreneurial as a kid. So I've actually an article in the paper coming out tomorrow, and it talks about how when I was 16, I started making homebrew beer and trying to sell it to my friends. So I've always had that flair for maybe a little bit of initiative, and then also that kind of entrepreneurial spirit. So I kind of went through the normal route. School, like I didn't really find, I suppose, was for me. I didn't really excel at it. But then I ended up actually going into college to do business management, and that's when I really excelled. And from there, I got a scholarship to my master's in business consultancy. And that's when my kind of career, I suppose, really started to take off. I joined Big Four consultancy. So I worked in Price Waterhouse for about 6.5 years. And even during that time, I always had the entrepreneurial flair of I want to do something myself, but I really wasn't sure what it was. And inevitably, I ended up in the pet industry, which if someone had told me 10 years ago I'd be in the pet industry, it probably wouldn't the last areas I'd expect. And how that came about was off another kind of, I suppose, side hustle, for a better word. I started while I was working in PwC, and that was managing professional fighters. So I had two friends who were high-level professional fighters, and one of them was fighting for UFC at the time, which is pretty much the largest MMA organization in the world. It's huge across the US. And then my other friend was fighting for Bellator, which was basically its biggest rival. So the two guys I was helping them with their media, their sponsors, and inevitably I got them sponsored by CBD brands. And that's how CBD really came on my radar. So this would have been probably 2017. Now, in the US, CBD was already huge by then, but in Europe, it was really only starting to kind of, I suppose, kick off. So when I got the products for the two guys, they were absolutely dreadful in every way. So from the packaging, the quality, the branding, everything. And I was kind of a little bit confused and probably just disappointed that they were so poor, because I had such high hopes. And then when we got them, it was the complete opposite of what I expected. So when I kind of looked at, okay, what's better, or what's the kind of better alternative, there really wasn't much. So I essentially kind of got fascinated with around hemp and CBD, spent the next 8 months researching the industry, and then using the money I'd save for a new car, I actually launched Hemp Heroes.
Okay, so I had no idea that this story was going to go that way.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So a couple things. So having an entrepreneurial brain, before we get into your business, having that brain is a blessing and a curse, I call it. So
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. How do you manage it?
With a lot of CBD and lion's mane. That's the short
Love
answer.
it. That's awesome. Okay. The other thing that that clicked for me was you did really well in college, university.
Yeah.
A lot of entrepreneurs are not good students, but you were a good student.
Kind of in some ways. So in school,
And you're dyslexic. So a lot of dyslexics, right? So sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Yeah, so in school, I was a C&D student. So the way that we have kind of our finals, they're called the Leaving Cert. So in your kind of final set of exams, you can get 600 points, which is kind of your maximum amount. I got 280. So I got just under half, which I wouldn't say by any means is a great achievement. But then when I went into college, I actually got a first class honours, which was pretty much, I was turned into a BA student. So like I went complete opposite way, and on paper it shouldn't have been that way. I should have probably followed on and been a CD student in college. But when I kind of started doing business and an area that I actually liked and enjoyed, that's when I really excelled. I think that's when I really got into the kind of entrepreneurial mindset.
Interesting. Okay. All right. That helps me. Yeah. Okay. Because I was a very, very average student. And I didn't enjoy it. Like I got through it. I enjoyed the social part of it more than anything, both, grade school, high school, and college. But then as soon as I got out of that, that's when I started to excel. But this isn't about me. This is about you. So, okay. So then you launched Hemp Heroes. I'm sorry, you did say what year?
Yeah. So that would have been November of 2018.
November of 2018. Okay. What was your first product? What was your first, did you go to the farms first? What was next?
Yeah. So after I kind of identified there's a massive lack of high quality products in this space, what we then done is kind of looked at, okay, where can we get the product from? And again, my knowledge and level of, I suppose, expertise around CBD back then would have been, I was essentially a sponge. Anytime I spoke to someone, it was, okay, I've learned a new term. What does that mean? Okay, what makes this product better than another? So over that kind of 8-9 months, I tried to educate myself as much as possible. And that was literally going on Google, reading books, speaking to people. And we eventually actually found a manufacturer in the United Kingdom, in the UK, who could manufacture products for us. So we started with 3 human products and 1 pet product, which ironically now looking back, we've over 40 different products. So we've expanded massively. And like most CBD brands, we started in that white label route because white label or private label is probably your easiest entry point, that you don't need to have your manufacturing facilities, even the expertise in manufacturing. You're relying on that third party to do it for you. But the issue you have there is you really have to have full trust in them, because you really don't know what's in your product because you're not the one putting it in there.
Yeah. So 3 human, 1 pet. What was the first pet?
The first pet was actually a CBD tincture, and it was a 500 milligram tincture. And that was our first product. And really from the get-go, once we got people using that product, it was kind of like wildfire. Like the feedback we got was phenomenal for dogs with joint issues, anxiety, pain, even epilepsy. And then once we seen that feedback, I kind of knew early on, I was like, okay, if this has this impact in pets, which have no placebo effect, I can only imagine the impact it's going to have in humans. But I really like this pet space because pets have no placebo, where people are still maybe a little bit on the fence when it comes to taking supplements. But with pets, it's so clear cut, and you could really see the impact early on. So that's where we really started to kind of develop out more pet products over the last couple of years. So
you're going to launch you're already launched in the United States, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. So essentially the way we kind of developed the business, I probably took the maybe less traveled route of working full time while building the business. So I actually stayed in PwC from 2018 till I think it was around kind of 2022, 2023. So for the first, I suppose, 4 years of the business, I actually worked a full-time job while building the business. And the reason why I done that was I wanted to make sure we put everything back into building the business and putting the foundations in the correct way, that it would actually, I suppose, set it up for success long term. So we went from having 3 white label products essentially to then full in-house manufacturing. And then over that kind of 4-year period, we developed out, I think, over 10 pet products and then another kind of 15 human products. And then even in the last year or so, we're after launching probably an additional 10 products.
Wow. So, okay. So has there been much difficulty getting into the United States market? Like how did that all happen?
Yeah, so how that kind of all happened, like in Ireland, we'd be the number one selling, I suppose, CBD brand for pets. So like we're really well known in Ireland. We work with all the major animal rescues. So we have a huge giving back program where we work with pretty much the 12 biggest major rescues in Ireland. So like we have literally thousands and thousands of dogs who use our products. So the US is kind of always that kind of long-term goal where like I felt if we want to make a really big impact, the US is where we need to be. And in comparison to our products to US products, we're actually far superior. So the quality of our products is unmatched in that sense in terms of how we manufacture, and our price points are actually more cost effective, because usually when you get something that's a much higher quality, it comes with that extra cost. Because we're actually manufacturing our products, we pass that cost saving on to our customers and our retailers.
So you own the manufacturing plant?
Yeah, so in Ireland, we essentially have a lease. We rent our manufacturing facility,
Sure.
but we run it fully by us. There's no third party who actually manufacture our products. And in the US, we've basically we had kind of two options. We could have went with a third party manufacturer, but again, you're kind of, I suppose, you're not anyway unique in that sense. Like the vast majority of CBD products in the US are all white label, private label. Like most of the brands don't know how their product is actually really made or what's in there. So we could have went that route, but I felt it would have really diluted kind of the message of what we do. So we decided we'd actually set up a US LLC, which is based in New York State. And we've actually a manufacturing facility in Buffalo, New York, and where we're making our products in-house.
Okay, so Ireland has its own plant.
Yeah.
You're making Ireland products.
Yeah.
The United States has its own plant.
Exactly.
So essentially making the same product that you make in Ireland, we're just making it in the United States rather than your product in Ireland getting shipped here.
Yeah. And like in Ireland, we're part of an organization called Guaranteed Irish. So that's kind of to support kind of local businesses, local economy. I very much felt the same way in terms of the US, that if we're going to be in the US, we need to be really like made in the US and really support the local economy and employ people. So that's our long-term goal. And I think that's like a very nice point, because you'd be surprised how many products aren't made in the country they're sold in. So having something that's actually made in country, I think is really unique. And again, we're going to be using US hemp. Our goal is to be USDA organic before the end of the year. So like in Europe, we're fully certified organic and we're B Corp certified. So like sustainability is a big part of our business.
So B Corp certified for your Ireland, will you have to file separately for the US, or does that?
No, so essentially the companies are joined, so it will cover. And the way that we've kind of set up, I suppose, the US, it follows all of the best practices that we've developed in Ireland. So for example, how we manufacture our products is very unique. So most people in the US see CBD absolutely everywhere, and like literally you can pick up CBD in the gas station to your local pharmacy. So the big difference with us is we actually make our products completely chemical free. So pretty much 99% of the CBD in the US is made with either CO2 gas or ethanol. We use a unique cold press method, which we developed. So it's completely chemical free. It's this really dark, rich color, and it's so unique compared to everything else out there. So again, it makes us much more sustainable, and that's what we've been able to bring into the US.
So for listeners that don't really understand what B Corp certified is, do you want to tell them some of the benefits?
Yeah, brilliant. So for anyone who doesn't know what B Corp is, the analogy I kind of always give people is that like B Corp is nearly like an Olympic gold medal for sustainability. And like it's a really strong recognition. So to give you an idea, it took us about a year to get B Corp certified. So it's not like other recognitions where you give them a couple of $1,000s, you get a nice shiny plaque, and now you're part of some organization. B Corp is very much a merit-based system. So it looked at our whole business in a kind of, I suppose, holistic 360 approach. So down to how we manufacture, how we source our ingredients, who we work with, our suppliers, what agreements we have in place to make sure we pay them fairly, how we treat our staff, what we do for the environment, what we do in our packaging, our waste, our policies, procedures, absolutely everything. So we're actually the first hemp company in Ireland and the UK to get B Corp certified. And globally, we're less than, I think, one of 15 hemp companies in the world that have B Corp. So
that's amazing.
One of the other hemp companies most people would know of would be Charlotte's Web, who are obviously an absolutely gigantic CBD company. So to be on par with them in terms of our sustainability credentials is obviously huge.
That's amazing. And how often do they audit?
So the recertification works every 3 years. Now there's new standards that just came in, which I'm currently trying to wrap my head around. We got it in last year. So next year we recertify essentially, because usually you kind of start working on it nearly a year in advance, because it is quite a lengthy process. So because the way we manufacture is completely chemical free, that helped obviously hugely. And then all of the hemp that we use at the moment is fully certified organic. So the fact that we have organic license as well does massively help. And we're kind of transitioning a lot of our packaging away from basically plastic free. So even our treats, we have them in a new compostable kind of paper packaging that has this special lining in the inside. So on our new calming bites, it actually says on the front, plastic free, compostable.
Yeah. Yeah. And are your tinctures in glass?
Yeah, glass. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. We as a world have to get away from this plastic.
Yeah.
Not good.
No. And again, obviously like glass is inert, where like if you're using plastic, although it might be safer in the sense of it can't smash, like you're leaching plastic into the product, which you're giving to your dog for health benefits. So it doesn't really make sense. It's kind of counterintuitive.
Absolutely. I usually educate customers on at my stores, I don't carry fish oil in plastic bottles. There's one U.S. company that uses Icelandic fish oil.
Oh, yeah.
And he has aluminum bottles coated in epoxy on the inside, another inert, ingredient. Yeah, he's pretty cool. And that's the only fish oil I would carry. And customers would be like, why is this the only one you carry? And I said, well, have you ever noticed that a plastic bottle with fish oil in it a lot of times gets sucked in? That is the oil leaching the chemicals from the plastic.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yep. So, and there's other oils that I really love, but they're in plastic. So I wouldn't carry them. So anyhow, yeah. So did you already find your farmers in the U.S.? Or are you still in that stage?
No, so luckily we're actually kind of a little bit more developed. So one of our kind of main goals for this year is to get USDA organic certified. And we've actually found a couple of farmers who are already certified, which just means when we source hemp from them and cold press it, it makes the whole process of getting our CBD certified organic much easier. So we're already kind of quite, I suppose, far along in that process, which is brilliant. And then the other main kind of big win that we want to get this year is to get NASC certified.
Right.
So we joined the NASC, I think, back in December, and they've helped massively with our labels in terms of our compliance and what we can and can't say. So like all of our boxes, our labels, our packaging, that's all up to standard to make sure that we're not making any false claims. And now it's actually just getting our facility to the point now where we can get it essentially certified and get the inspection.
That's amazing. So NASC stands for National Animal Supplement Council, and it is a third-party company. My regular listeners know all this, because I don't really support very many supplement companies that are not NASC certified. Yeah. So because, there's really nothing holding anyone back, especially in the pet space, from saying whatever the hell they want.
I know, yeah. And I know that is an issue. And again, that's why I got into, I suppose, the CBD space in the beginning, because it was essentially the Wild Wild West, and unfortunately still is to some regard, where you have brands out there who make all sorts of claims, won't even actually, I suppose, describe what type of CBD they're selling. So like one of the biggest issues we come across is, I think people are a lot more educated now, but still there's a lot of people who think CBD is CBD. And once you see them three letters, like that's it. No matter like if it's $50 or $20, they're all the same. And that just couldn't be further from the truth. So like with our products, because they're cold pressed, they're actually in their natural form. So like I can show you here, this is one of our pet products. So this is our 500 milligram tincture. Like you can see how dark our oils are. They're literally like black, like an engine oil. And like what I always tell people is, if you think about it logically, hemp is a dark green plant, the same color as spinach. You would expect it to look like this, not like this kind of color, where like most of the stuff you see in the US is this yellowy color. And like that's not hemp's natural form. That's been processed.
So that's why yours is dark and the others are yellow.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, all CBD starts that dark color, and what they usually do is they have different heat processing. So like to turn it from a full spectrum, which has trace elements of THC, into a broad spectrum, usually the best way to do that is short path distillation, which is like essentially heating the product till the THC boils off. And naturally, if you're boiling the whole product, you're going to change its structure. So a lot of your cannabinoids will actually change. So what you'll find in the US now is a lot of brands are adding in CBDA into their products. And CBDA is similar to CBD, but essentially still has its acid molecule. And there's a lot of research now coming out to the forefront that CBDA is even more powerful than CBD, and it helps with absorption. We actually naturally have CBDA in our product already because it's cold pressed, because you haven't converted that CBDA into CBD because we don't use heat.
Okay. So, okay, let me play a little bit devil's advocate.
Yeah.
So, if I'm gonna kill him. It's got to be thunder. If others have been heated,
Yeah.
but people are still finding them effective,
Oh, yeah.
are we doing harm in any way?
You're not doing any harm, but I suppose the analogy here is, would you rather a Rolls Royce or a Toyota? So like what we offer people is the highest quality, and like the products that they're currently using, like there's nothing wrong with them. If they still have obviously ethanol in the product, well then it would be regarded as unsafe.
Yeah.
But like once there's no chemicals left in the finished product, you're probably taking a safe product. But in terms of the effectiveness of it, it's definitely not where it could be. And that's why, because we're cold pressing, you're locking in the full range of cannabinoids, which are naturally present in the plant. So instead of trying to, I suppose, strip things back and then build them up, we keep them in their natural form. So it makes it much easier. Like even the terpenes in our plant, they're naturally locked in there. Your plant fats, you get everything in there. Where other brands, they'll nearly get a CBD isolate, get a CBDA isolate, get a CBG isolate. They'll try mix them in, mix terpenes, and you're nearly trying to recreate what nature does naturally.
So, okay, so can you explain the cold pressed process?
Yeah, so to keep it in simple terms, essentially it's high pressure and low heat. So for a better word, we crush the hemp plant, and then that releases the cannabinoids, and then that's what goes into our products. So
I buy coconut water that says cold pressed.
Yeah, and like essentially it's a mechanical process. So otherwise you're using solvents, because solvents obviously they soak it into the hemp, and then essentially that's what releases the cannabinoids. So it's a completely different process. And a question I actually get quite a lot is, why doesn't everyone cold press if it's so much better? The short answer is it's far more expensive to do, and it's much more difficult. Where like if you're running a CO2 or an ethanol extraction facility, you could be doing 2,000-3,000 pounds of hemp a day, no problem. With cold press, you're not going to be doing nearly that volume, but it's a much higher quality product.
Okay, so that being said, are you able to keep up with production since you're really growing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what we've done is we have the technology there to scale. So it just means we need more machines to obviously keep up with demand. But like our whole ethos here is quality first. So we'd never compromise our quality to, I suppose, make sure we meet demand. Like we're always hedging forward to make sure that we have the right equipment there to, I suppose, see the increased demand coming down the line. But we're always quality first, because when people try our products, we want them to know that they're getting the best, I suppose, bang for their buck.
So, and in your plants, in your manufacturing plant,
Yeah.
you're literally getting the hemp plant
Yeah.
shipped to you.
Yeah.
You cold press it in your own facility.
Exactly. And we make it into the finished product.
Bottled everything.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the big difference with us, because if you think about it, from most other CBD brands, they're so far removed from the process. So like there's the very few who actually grow their own hemp and then will process, but like they're very far and few between. And I actually do have a funny story, because we did try that ourselves to grow and actually process. And we tried to grow in Ireland, in Wicklow. So Wicklow is just outside of Dublin, and it's kind of more in the kind of like countryside. And we rented 3 acres to grow on. And I'm by no means a farmer. Like, as I suppose said earlier, my background is business. So we contracted a farmer in to help us. He ploughed the field, sowed it, slurried it. We were going to do it all organic. And then essentially I got told, look, leave it for a couple of weeks, come back in 6 weeks. You should start to see the hemp plant starting to grow. In about 12 to 13 weeks, you're nearly ready for harvest. And when I came back, there was lots of wild deer everywhere. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. The deer are here. When I actually investigated further, the deer had eaten all of our hemp. So we had a healthy deer in Wicklow and essentially no hemp farm. So a complete disaster, needless to say. And I learned pretty quickly that deer can jump up to 7 feet high. So deer fencing for 3 acres is not economical, especially when they've eaten everything. So after that point, we decided, okay, we're not going to be hemp farmers as well. That's probably a step too far. And like, let's focus on the manufacturing and the branding and the product development. So again, I don't know if that'd be an issue in the US, but I think we already have enough on our plate. Yeah. It's much better working with hemp farmers. So with us, the kind of, I suppose, the steps in the chain are, we bring in the raw organic hemp, and from that point forward, the finished product that you get is made by us. With other brands, what they have is they have a hemp farmer who grows the hemp. It probably goes to a third party who basically process it with CO2 gas or ethanol. That's then refined. It's then bottled. A label is put on it. And then that third party brand gets it. And then they put a nice story up of how they started their business. And then it's sold to you, and you're none the wiser. And they don't even know what's in the product in reality.
So it's similar with pet food.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or even human food. When you have a product that you pay someone else to make for you, you only have so much control. So yeah, it's really similar with pet food.
Yeah, and again, it's an issue in most industries, like even in human food supplements. There's a brand that only got called out recently. I can't think of the name of the brand now, but they were doing essentially a creatine, I think, gummy, or it was like creatine supplement. And when it got tested independently, it basically had no creatine in it. And they put it down to their third party manufacturer had an issue with a batch, and it just never went in. But again, that's what happens, and that's the risk you run when you're relying completely on someone else to do what they're meant to do. So that's why we've full control, that we know exactly what goes into each of our products. Everything is batch tested, and then every SKU is tested as well. So essentially we get a test from the farm to make sure that everything is essentially where it should be. No heavy metals. We know our CBD levels. We know our THC levels. It's going to be coming in organic anyways. Then once we make a batch of oil, that's tested, because naturally before we formulate, we need to know what strength it is. And then a SKU from each product is tested to make sure we've got everything correct. So essentially there's 3 tests along the way. Short of, I suppose, nearly testing every bottle, that's nearly the best we can do.
That's awesome. Awesome. Seems like you've checked every box.
Yeah. Well, we always try to. And again, like, I've built up a really good reputation in the last 7 years in Ireland and Europe. We've done things the right way. We definitely haven't grown as quick as some other businesses. But again, I'd rather do things the right way and get it right first time round than rush things and really ruin your reputation, because it only takes 2 minutes to lose your reputation.
Yep, absolutely. And it's very important to build those relationships. That's how I've gotten to where I have. So
yeah, absolutely. And like, I think if you lose that trust element, it's very hard to win back.
Yep, absolutely. So, I had 4 stores. I had 3 in Pittsburgh and 1 in Florida. And I recently just sold my 3 stores. like on January 1st. So I still went to Global. Global is one of our big trade shows. And Global was in March, so it was 3 months after I sold, and everybody knew I sold my 3 big Pittsburgh stores. And David, I didn't know what to expect when I went. I thought, and I've been in the industry for 16 years, so, my buying power was, I'm not going to say it, but was really high, and now it's not so high. So I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if people would blow me off. I didn't know what to expect. And it was amazing. I mean, there was no difference whatsoever from anyone. If anything, I think I was more engaged in conversations with owners of companies and reps that I've known forever. And, I was very relieved and still get the support. So anyhow,
And
I think you're doing everything the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the pet industry in general, like I've been only in it 7 years, I suppose, so it's not been a very long time.
Yeah.
But like the thing I really like about the pet industry, it is very kind of family driven, and like usually when people get in the pet industry, they very rarely leave unless they pass away. So when you meet people in the industry, you're nearly guaranteed to work with them through the rest of your career. So I think that's where the relationships really come into it. And like, there's people I met 3-4 years ago, and like I see them at all the different events. Like I'd see them at Global in March. I'll see them in Super Zoo now when we're over there in August. And it's actually really fun because it's like meeting good friends 2 or 3 times a year at different events.
Yep. Totally. It's a great industry. And even the ones that do leave, they end up coming back.
Yeah.
So, okay. So as far as US goes, if anyone listening really wants to start using and trying your products, is the best place online right now?
Yeah, so if they drop us a message, we can, we're basically just finalizing our US website right now. So at the moment, we can only take Euro, but we're actually getting that sorted. And we've also a couple of retailers hopefully coming online very soon.
Oh, good.
So that's something we're working very hard on. And we're also new members of Indie Pet, which is how obviously we got connected.
Yay.
So I'm going to be speaking on Thursday at Super Zoo at the breakfast morning. So I'm really looking forward to that, and actually speaking to other kind of, I suppose, business owners and pet store founders. So independent pet stores is really what we want to support, because that's where we've, I suppose, grown our business in Ireland. So I'm really looking forward to that. And the goal is to, like, I suppose, get as many retailers as possible stocking our products, that it makes it more accessible. So we've our full range of cold pressed CBD products. As I mentioned earlier, we're actually much more price competitive. So like, for example, like 1,000 milligram tincture for pets can go up to about $120. I've seen in some places. We're basically $80, and you're getting something that's cold pressed. It will be organic certified later this year. It's B Corp certified. It's made in the US, and it's made by us.
And what about dosage?
Dosage, we actually have all the dosage on the side of the box and the bottle, so it makes it super easy to follow. And the way that we've actually designed our tinctures, we have them as our small paws, big paws, and giant paws. So it's nearly kind of self-explanatory of which one you should get. And again, the dosage on the side basically describes what size, I suppose, animal it should be used for. And then on our functional mushrooms, this is kind of a product that I'm really passionate about, because how I got into the, I suppose, mushroom space 2 years ago, my mum got diagnosed with breast cancer, and she's doing absolutely amazing now, and she's fully recovered. But obviously my background is manufacturing food supplements, and as soon as we got the news, I said, okay, we're going to throw everything in the kitchen sink at this. So what can I do to help with her treatment? And when I looked at different things to help with cancer, or even say brain health and even immunity, mushrooms came up time and time again. So I think within the course of a week, I read 2 books on mushrooms, tried to consume as much stuff I could find on Paul Stamel, and I actually came across the really interesting documentary he done, and he talks about his own mum's journey with breast cancer, and he used turkey tail. And from that point, I got my mum on turkey tail. And again, when I went to actually find product, it was really hard to get extracts, where most of the products I found in the market were raw mushroom powders. And the more I educate myself on it, mushrooms have a really thick cell wall. And essentially, we don't have the enzymes to break that chitin down and the fiber. So unless you're using an extract, it's not as beneficial. So that's why traditionally a lot of the functional mushrooms would have been brewed as teas, because the hot water essentially breaks down that hard fiber.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So, can we do a separate episode on mushrooms based on
Oh,
our
yeah,
time?
absolutely. Yeah.
Why don't we do that if you don't mind?
Yeah, no, of course.
Because,
Yeah.
I want to talk about, wow. Okay. I want to talk about social media channels, website, all that kind of stuff. Let's tell me where you are and how people can find you.
Yeah, so you can find pretty much all of our information on how to contact this on hempheroes.com. So it's HEMPHEROS.com. And then with the mushrooms, we are actually setting up a dedicated website there as well. So that'll be just called mushandco.com. So that should be set up probably in the next 2 weeks. And we're just kind of putting the final touches on it. And with that one, it actually will be easier to buy in the US, because a lot of people don't know, but when it comes to CBD, it's really hard to get payment providers. So with mushrooms, it's a lot easier. So with the mushroom products, we'll actually have them available pretty quick in the US.
Wow. I looked on your website. They're not available right now, correct?
Yeah, so the mushroom drops for pets have actually only launched in the US so far. So right now we actually only have them on Chewy. They're kind of the only retailer who has them just now. And we are speaking to other kind of, I suppose, big and small retailers who are interested, because to put it in perspective, our mushroom tinctures have 150,000 milligrams of mushroom extract per bottle. The kind of closest, I suppose, competitor has about 20 to 30,000.
So I know you have a separate human line in CBD. So how is it going to work with Mush?
We actually have a human line in Mush Co as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so we basically kind of have the business in kind of two parts. We have our human food supplements, and then we have our pet supplements. And essentially, we both have lines in both with CBD and mushrooms.
Got it.
So because we have, I think it's over 40 products now, and like we're actually working on a new mushroom product, which will be cordyceps, which is more for energy, and that'll be for human and pets. But what we do is we pair them with natural botanicals. So the botanicals that we'll use in humans will be like maca, root, and possibly rhodiola. We'll probably use something slightly different for pets, because we need to make sure it's obviously safe for them, for cats and dogs. So because we have so many products, it would be probably crazy to try launch all 40 in the US at once. So that's why we decided we'd only launch with our pet products first, focusing on them for the next 2 years, and eventually launch our human products in the US.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is great.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. That's what people say to me when I start telling them what all I have going on. And they're like, I get this look like, and I'm like, what? It's not a big deal. Everything's fine.
Yeah, and to add complexity to it, apart from running, I suppose, the two businesses there, I actually have a third business which manufactures mushroom drinks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for humans, yeah. So like they have functional mushrooms and vitamins in them, which it's currently just launched in Ireland, and we're in about 150 stores. And we just raised some funding there only 2 weeks ago. So eventually we will have that in the US as well at some point.
But that's a totally separate LLC.
Yeah, exactly. That's a totally separate company, yeah.
Okay, so what did we miss? Because we're not going to go deep into mushrooms on this episode. So did we miss anything on the CBD end?
I suppose the other thing on the CBD end, which kind of makes us a bit more unique, other than the fact we manufacture, which kind of makes us nearly that kind of 1%, or like even in the top 10%, because most people don't manufacture. Probably the thing that makes us the 1% is because we cold press. But what makes us even further, I suppose, more unique is that we're doing clinical studies. So in Ireland, we've been working with the largest veterinary university called UCD. So UCD is where pretty much the vast majority of vets in Ireland train. So if you want to become a vet, you basically go to university here, they'll teach you, and then you go off and do whatever kind of, I suppose, internship you do in your veterinary practice. So we've been working with them for the last 4 years, and essentially the first study that we've done, which is actually finished now and should be published later this year, was a pain management study for arthritis in dogs. So in that study, the aim of it was to actually prove that CBD and our unique cold press CBD actually helps with pain management for arthritis. And the actual results of the project did show it actually does, which is really unique. So the way that we structured the actual, I suppose, study was it was a double-blind control placebo. So what that essentially means is both the vet and the dog owner were completely blind. And the way that we had the control was you either had our cold press CBD or you had hemp seed oil. And it was 6 weeks on product A or B. So completely randomized. So you get 6 weeks on product A or B, 6 weeks on nothing, and then 6 weeks on the reverse, which means that each dog is its own control. So from the results of that study, we seen categorically across the board a reduction in pain, and it actually did show that it basically helps inflammation.
So did they use the pressure plates to...
So that was what we initially had planned, and unfortunately they actually don't have pressure plates in the university, and they're looking to get one because we looked into getting one, but they're about 50 or 60,000. They're not cheap.
Yeah.
So what we done is we used the Liverpool method, which is a very well-known pain index, and where they can measure pain scores, and then the Helsinki pain method as well. So two of them were used, and essentially the owners of the dogs had to do a survey, and then the vets do an assessment. So because that study has been done and we've proven in, I think it was 15 dogs, that it does help with pain management, the goal now is to look for further funding, ideally get pressure plates or potentially do blood samples where we can check inflammatory markers, and then see actually, like with real in-depth, I suppose, scientific, that we can show that, okay, here's the difference between the pressure before and after, or here's the inflammatory markers and they're down. So that's the longer term idea. But I think the goal of the study is actually to get it published in a JAVE. So I think it's the American Journal of Veterinary Medicine. So that's what UCD are pushing for at the moment. And the paper is fully finished. It's actually just a case of getting it reviewed and published now.
Nice. That's awesome. That's really awesome.
And again, most brands won't do clinical studies, mainly for two reasons. One, 90% don't own their ingredients. So you're not going to spend a ton of money on a product which you don't make and you don't control. And secondly, it also takes a lot of time. So that's why other brands don't do it. So like, because we're putting that time and money and effort in, it really shows that we like 100% back our products, and like we know they work. Anecdotally, we absolutely know they work. We've hundreds of 5-star reviews from our customers. Like, we've some of the oldest charities in Ireland who are shelters who use and endorse our products. So like, we know they work, but still you have people who are skeptical, especially some veterinary practices who think CBD is snake oil and it doesn't work. And a lot of that's down to some of the low quality products in the market, which do give it a bad name.
We've made leaps and bounds, though, I feel like, in gaining some credibility.
Yeah, no, 100%. And like, one of the guys that we do a little bit of work with in Ireland would be Dr. Conor Brady. So I know a lot of people that know Conor, and he's used our products and seen them firsthand. And one of the shelters we actually work with, he does some work with them, and that's how we end up getting connected. So Conor's a big fan of our products. We're actually going to be at the Feed Real Summit later this year in California, and I know Conor is speaking at it, and I think next year hopefully I'll actually be speaking at it myself. Nice. So we're definitely trying to educate people, and like, I understand there's plenty of other really good brands out there, but I think the more people are educated and informed, they can make the right decisions. Because I do still hear it today where people buy a product and they say, look, tried CBD, it doesn't work. And usually when I speak to them, I go, okay, was the product yellow or clear in colour? And they're like, oh, how'd you know? And I'm like, well, I can guarantee you bought a low quality product, because it's meant to be dark. It's not meant to be clear. And if you're buying something that looks like water, you're probably buying CBD isolate, which costs $1 to make.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. So you have to keep me in the loop as far as everything that's happening.
Yeah.
We will schedule soon for the mushroom episode.
Yeah, brilliant.
And Hemp Heroes, no E, heros.com. Hemp, HEROS.com. And are you on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of that?
Yeah, so we're on TikTok, just Hemp Heroes, all one word, and on Instagram as well. And then, sorry, another point as well, Toni, because our study went so well with the first one, the head of the veterinary college has completely changed his mind on CBD now, and we got a second study. So the first study is done on pain management. The second study is currently being done now, and that's actually to prove that our CBD reduces basic anxiety. And the goal of that study is actually to prove that it reduces cortisol levels, because Mars Pet Care...
We can test cortisol levels.
Exactly. And what's measured obviously gets done. So like we can see here physically, if there's a reduction, well then naturally something is happening here. And Mars Pet Care done this study, or a similar one, I think back in 2018, where they got dogs, gave them a single dose of CBD, and then they actually did see a reduction in cortisol. So essentially we're using a similar model, but to make it more ethical, because it's taking blood samples, we've actually partnered with the oncology unit. So these dogs are going through cancer treatment. They're naturally getting their bloods done. They're getting either our cold pressed CBD or placebo. They measure the results before having no product, with the placebo, and after product. And then we can hopefully see that their cortisol levels reduce when they get CBD.
Fascinating.
Yeah. And
Very
again, if I had all the money in the world, I'd put it all into research, because there's so many other studies we want to do. Like the next one we want to do kind of to start as our kind of baseline would be epilepsy, because we've had some fantastic results for both people and pets with our products for epilepsy. And I know studies have been done in the US around epilepsy, and it massively reduces the frequency of seizures. But I think there's a huge opportunity there, because when it comes to epilepsy, I know it doesn't affect many dogs, but there isn't a lot you can do for them. And like if your dog has epilepsy, it's horrible to watch. If you can give them something that's natural, isn't going to damage their kidney and liver over time, and will at least alleviate some of the problems, well, that's a win in our book.
It definitely is. And all of this being said, yes, we have to continue the research and raise awareness of what CBD can do for pets. We still have to look at the whole picture. We still have to look at what food we're feeding them, how much we're over-vaccinating, how much chemical flea and tick treatments we're doing, how, it all plays a role. So someone that is feeding Beneful or Kibbles and Bits, like a food that is full of sugar and artificial coloring, they need to look at that too. Yeah. And try CBD, right?
Yeah. No, of course.
Improve the food, reduce the chemical load, introduce CBD, and you're going to have a completely different animal.
Yeah, no, 100%. And like, again, it's always best to start with the basics.
Yep.
So like, if you kind of have the diet and everything else, and even the water you're giving to your pets, like, like in our house we have a filter, which is like a double filter. Like my dog will actually turn his nose up at tap water now because he can smell the chlorine. Yeah.
And same goes for humans. I mean, we have to look at the core diet. You have to look at everything. So you can't just take supplements. You can't just take CBD. You can't and think that's going to change the world. So although it does change the world, we have to look at everything. And if someone's eating a shitty diet, human or pet, and that might be another reason why sometimes the CBD is not really making that much of a difference, is you got to look at the whole picture.
Yeah, no, of course. And like, it's something we definitely say to kind of, I suppose, people who use our human products, because on the human side, we'd have a lot of people who use our products for sleep. And some people have just such poor sleep habits that they'll have a coffee late in the day and then be clueless as why they can't sleep that night. And like, we'll always say to them, look, the CBD will help with your sleep, but don't have an espresso before bed and expect the CBD to work magic.
Exactly. Or a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
Okay, David, last and final thoughts. Did we hit everything?
I think that's pretty much everything. Yeah. Like if anyone has any questions, like our team are really good at responding. Like you can get us on WhatsApp, you'll get us on Instagram, TikTok, email. Like there's a number of different ways you can reach out to us. If we think we can help, we'll absolutely will. And if we can't, we'll tell you. So like, please do reach out, even if you're just looking for a bit of advice. And I suppose any pet stores who might be listening, we'd love to work with you guys. Like, you're kind of the lifeblood of our business. So we definitely want to work with more as we grow in the US. So like, we have a couple of different shows planned for later this year. Hopefully we're going to be over at the Pittsburgh show as well. So we have a lot of trips planned to the US, put it that way.
Yeah, you better. I hope you have a good pet sitter, depending on how many dogs or whatever you have. So
yeah, I've currently one at the moment who's at home with my mom. So he's a mix between a husky and a German shepherd, and he's probably one of the most well looked after dog in terms of he gets all of his lion's mane and CBD on tap.
But you're smart in really focusing on indie pet stores, because we're the ones that have those conversations. We're the ones that have these conversations that you and I just had with customers that are in the thick of it, and they don't know what the fuck to do. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're terrified if they just got a cancer diagnosis, if they just got an epilepsy diagnosis, arthritis, whatever. Like, and they don't know which way to turn. And there's so much information out there. They don't know, they just, and we are on the sales floor having those conversations, long conversations, repeated conversations, and indies care. They really care.
No, of course. And like, that's why we love working with them, because in Ireland, it's majority independent pet stores that we deal with. And you can see, like, they know their customers on a first name basis. They know their customers' dogs' names, and they really care. And like, we're really passionate about our products, and like, we always go above and beyond to make sure the customer gets the experience that they deserve, because at the end of the day, they're trusting us with their dog's health and their hard-earned money, and we want to give them as much value as possible. And that's why we feel like we're going to make a huge impact in the US, because we're bringing something that's new, it's really high quality, and it's not going to come at that, I suppose, higher price point. That they're getting real good value for money with something they know that will work.
Yeah. Well, I'm thrilled that we met. I'm excited for your journey. And
thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for being on. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now, everyone.